It was hard to find a high-resolution one of you, so I did the best I could on that.
That's okay.
Okay. Here we go.
Thank you for joining us today. Hey, Travis.
Yeah.
I guess we're starting a little late, so we'll just jump right in. The biggest problem that I hear mobile developers saying that they're facing in the future for the next 12 months is going to be discovery in the mobile app environment. Can you talk a bit about the ways in which Zynga is dealing with that problem with their own apps, and then what value proposition they can offer through their publishing arm to other developers that want to publish through Zynga on mobile?
Got it. So sort of two parts to that question. So I think first part of that question is for Zynga, we're one part of the company is a traditional games company that focuses a lot on building great products and trying to make them easy to discover. One of the big value propositions of Zynga is, probably heard before, but making games free, accessible, and social. And the free part is obviously one of the big things about driving discovery in the app stores today. All of the games that are sort of dominating the top grossing charts, for the most part, are free games. And so we believe that one of the ways you can get discovered the best is by having a free game. The social side is actually another really important part of discovery, and that drives a lot of engagement in our network. And the reason why that's important is that, using kind of a simple anecdote of sort of me and my mom playing, while I might be able to pay for a game and have disposable income, my mom's not going to be one to really, if I say, hey, play Words with Friends with me or play another game with me, she's not going to download it or play with me if it's a paid game or if it's difficult to play. And so both making them accessible and free, and then using social to drive additional installs is a huge part of that. Then when we have a good understanding of how the game is performing in the market, then we can supplement that with ad spend by kind of doing analysis of how well the game is monetizing and then spending against that kind of performance. And so that's typically how we look at the market. Quality, of course, is key to driving those additional free installs. So the team spends a lot of time making great games that are differentiated from stuff in the market. And if we do a good job, we know that we'll drive discovery.
So Facebook is also becoming a part of maybe a part of the solution, but also maybe part of the problem. We'll see. With their mobile ad install product, and it is also kind of upping the ante on what it is they can and can't do with helping apps find your friends through Facebook integrations. So how does Facebook really fit into the equation, and where does that leave you guys now that you're free from a lot of your exclusivity deals? And in March can do your own thing.
Yeah. I mean, look, we are super fans of Facebook. Obviously, it was one of the great partners of ours in kind of founding and growing the company. Because again, when you go back to kind of social gaming, they're one of the great facilitators of social connections. And so again, if I go back to the idea of playing a game like poker or Words with Friends with my mom, and I like using these real world examples because fundamentally that's how our company runs, and I deeply believe in that as well. Is that my mom's on Facebook. She's a friend of mine. I can find her easily. I can connect with her through Facebook. That's great, and that also works really, really well on mobile. And so the places where Facebook's moving into new ways of app discovery and ads, that's extremely valuable. The flip side of that is that there's a lot of people who play games and want to connect socially through games who don't want to connect on Facebook. At the end of the day, there's lots of folks, let's say we use poker as an example, maybe you're really aggressive in poker and you really like to play with aggressive people. You may not have any friends in your social graph or on Facebook that play poker that way. And so having the ability to connect with those type of players off of Facebook's super important. And creating that flexibility for our players is key for us. And so the relationship with us and Facebook is great, but it also provides a lot more value for our consumers to be able to connect with players they may not be friends with on Facebook. And we've seen that true today. If you look at sort of, again, Words with Friends as a great example, a large percentage of our players connect through Facebook, and a lot of them don't. And so I think it's a really great ability to have that flexibility to provide our players.
Now, you may not know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask anyway. Where does Zynga.com fit into that? Because Words with Friends is available on Zynga.com. I can play on Zynga.com without connecting to Facebook. At what point will I be able to play Words with Friends on mobile via Zynga.com?
Yeah, so Zynga.com is a great example of sort of connecting off of Facebook, right? Just the ability to play with people that may not be friends on Facebook. In terms of bringing Zynga.com to mobile, I can't really speak for the Zynga.com guys. I'm primarily focused on mobile. I spent a lot of time talking about that, but I'm a big mobile guy and put most of my career into this space. The thing about mobile that's different is mobile is about discrete experiences. Probably everyone in the audience has been watching so many mobile presentations, you guys know that. But it's about apps that do one thing and one thing only very, very well and as fast as possible. So going to a destination site on a mobile phone doesn't make a lot of sense. Going to discrete experiences does. And so to be socially connected through that discrete experience is more likely, I believe, what will happen. So I think you'll have a distributed network that exists within the apps in a sort of a fragmented sense on mobile devices than some big destination site that goes from there. That's also why if you look at the top performing apps today, they're all these very unique, discrete experiences, almost tools, like the way you think about a screwdriver, a wrench, or a hammer. It does one thing really well. You don't think about it going to your mobile phone and going to some big bucket of lots of tool chests, right? The mobile phone itself is a multi-tool selector. Each game is an individual thing. And those games that do the best job of that perform the best.
Okay. So let's talk a bit about those discrete app experiences then. So we've heard some developers say to us that the age of the fast follow is done and that it doesn't work to take whatever's top in the App Store and just slap a social layer on that and push it out the door. Zynga's had experience that has been both positive and negative in this. So what have you really learned that you can then apply going forward to new app experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I think the truth is that there's always, consumers will never adopt anything that's exactly the same as something else. And I don't think Zynga ever believed in that. I think the reality is that Zynga's big value proposition is creating a social, engaging experience on known playing patterns or familiar types of experiences. And so the real thing that we want to spend all of our time doing is making sure there's a point of differentiation in whatever we offer, because consumers aren't going to play something that's identical to something else. It just doesn't make sense. And so we spend a lot of our time trying to really say, how do we create a social experience that's so valuable that consumers want to play our games over everything else in the space when they're looking for social. There's a lot of people who don't want to have a social experience. They just want to have an awesome single-player experience too. But for us, we're focused on the social side of things. And so creating a point of social differentiation or just a different product experience will draw users to it. And we've seen that to be true. So.
Okay. So Zynga has talked a lot about what it's going to do in the coming year. One of the big things is it's going to go very hard on mobile. They're planning to release more mobile games than social games for the first time ever, I think, in their history. And then they're also looking at more of hardcore or mid-core experiences and the types of games that they're going to be putting out. So what impact does that have on you, and like which devices are you looking at for these things, and how do you view the upcoming landscape of mobile now that Zynga is going to be going harder on it, and now that we're looking at what could be a bloodbath on tablets?
Yeah, I'm super excited about both mobile and tablets. What's interesting about the mobile industry is everyone sort of says, this is the year of mobile, and they've been saying that for a long time. I started the mobile games industry back in 1999 when there were Motorola StarTACs and the Sharp Z800 and the Kia Ceira 3035, and made a bunch of games back then. And it's been a sort of a steady flow from that point forward to today. And so I think what we're learning is we're watching how the ecosystem continues to evolve over a long period of time. And I think it's going to continue to evolve. I don't think it's sort of this is the year. I think it's just going to continue to grow over time, and really leaning into the mobile future is important for companies that want to be in this space. And so we're deep believers in that. In terms of what that means for Zynga, mobile is going to be everywhere, as everyone knows, in different countries, different languages, different play patterns, different demographics, and different consumers and players. And so for us, if we want to have a very broad social network where players can find anybody they want to play a game with, we need to move into different genres and access different consumers so people can find friends that they want to play with. I mean, while we love Words with Friends, it's primarily English only. There are other games that, poker might be a little too aggressive for some people. People want to play mid-core games, and we want to offer those. So at the end of the day, we want to have a broad offering that allows us to connect the world through play. And so you have to be pretty broad to do that.
So when it comes then to devices, so tablet, smartphone, things like that, and also being global, where not everybody is going to want an iPad, they're just going to want something that looks and feels like a tablet. Doesn't matter to them who it comes from. What do you consider? Do you develop them with tablet in mind? Do you develop separately for phone and then one for tablet and then also for Facebook? Or do you try to create one game experience to rule them all?
Yeah, definitely don't believe in one game experience through them all. And I know that a lot of people sort of group tablet and mobile phones together. I sort of don't consider tablets to be mobile phones. The way that I always test that theory is next time you're at a Vons or a shopping center, look at how many people are carrying around their tablets in the store, right? And pretty much zero. Maybe somebody has a backpack while they're shopping, but it's unlikely that they're going to be carrying around a tablet. So tablets are really, for me, more desktop or laptop replacements. Technically, they're mobile, but they're as mobile as a laptop is. And so they're different in that way. In two other ways. One is in their environment of use, or for us, the environment of play. Tablets tend to be destination devices. People sit down to play with their tablets. Mobile phones tend to be very transient. I like to call it interruption tolerant. The best mobile games are interruption tolerant. They can bend really easily when you're getting a text message or a phone call, or you're switching between Uber and Airbnb and whatever else you're doing. And so the apps that are built that way do really well on mobile, and not so much on tablets. In terms of designing for each of them, that's a long subject. I could spend hours on that one. It's one of my favorite subjects to talk about.
We got 10 minutes here. Come on.
I'll go through some of it if you guys are interested. One of the great things about tablets, like I said, is environment of play, destination play. There's simple things like audio. When you're usually playing with a tablet, things like story arcs and using audio are more valuable and more valuable to the game design on a tablet than they would necessarily be on a mobile phone. So if, again, you go back to the supermarket analogy, and you're playing a game that has a story arc to it. You know, the princess goes down the road and all these things happen. If you keep getting interrupted, it's going to be hard to remember where you left off in the story. That's interruption tolerance. Also, if there's dialogue or there's great audio, you're unlikely to have your volume on in a supermarket, where if you're doing destination play on a tablet, you would probably. And so you have to design these experiences differently for each of the platforms. And I think that's one of the things that you'll see companies that focus on these platforms to be very successful. When it comes to multi-platform, which I know you mentioned earlier, what's fascinating about multi-platform is we're really believers that it's not multi-platform that makes a hit game. It's you have a hit game, and when you have a game, then you can bring it to multiple platforms. And I think one of the great things about Zynga is we're investing in the ability to multi-platform, but we're really focused on creating these kind of great favorite games or these hit games. An example of that would be Words with Friends obviously started as a great mobile hit. It wasn't a multi-platform game at first. It was originally a great mobile hit. And then we realized people really loved it. It was a great social game. And then that great social experience could be extended across other platforms. And it eventually came to Facebook and then tablets. The flip side of that is Zynga also had a great game called Zynga Poker, which started on the web and was very successful and became a hit there. And then we realized, wow, people really want to connect and play this game with their friends. And a lot of their friends now have mobile phones. And so then that game was moved over to mobile phones and is now multi-platform. And I think that's a little bit more how we think about it is, again, connecting the world through play, but it's not the multi-platform that drives the hit. It's really making the great experience first.
So what are some of the questions you ask yourself then when you're looking at something like Farmville 2, which is, it's pretty successful, I want to say, and it is built for the next generation of platforms. Flash Player 11, I believe, with possibly Air 3 compatibility, which means it could be on tablet, it could be on mobile. That doesn't necessarily mean you put it there, right?
Right. Well, yeah, absolutely. And so I think one of the great things about the way our company looks at this, and if you use Words with Friends or Zynga Poker, as I was just mentioning as an example, clearly the teams who manage Farmville and these other intellectual properties are keenly aware of their consumers are on tablets and are on other devices, and so they're looking at this and sort of trying to decide what's the right experience to bring to these platforms. And so for each of the game teams that are building intellectual property and these great game experiences, definitely have that in mind.
Okay. So when it comes then to dealing with older properties, Zynga has a lot of legacy games that have not been taken offline and probably won't because they're still viable. Is there a way for mobile development to support those games or offer any kind of value add to them to continue supporting players that want to play those games? An example being Cityville, even though we've moved on to Cityville 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, what the best way to answer that question is I think is the game teams are creating and crafting these intellectual properties. They're sort of looking at what the right fit is, and so just because they can extend it to mobile doesn't mean they necessarily should or would. And so I think each of the leaders of those teams look at it very carefully, and they want to make sure that the right experience they're giving to consumers makes sense. And so I think they look at each one individually, and the teams make the decision on whether or not it makes sense to extend it to mobile.
How can you minimize the risk then when you're looking at something and you want to go for it and just give it that experience on mobile and trying to add in the social layer? Like, what kinds of metrics are you looking at internally and externally, and then how can you prevent yourself from another Mafia Wars 2 situation? Yeah,
I mean, I think at the end of the day, we sort of know that there's the company has a lot of experience in certain demographics and certain genres of gameplay. And so I think that comes with a lot of weight. We sort of know there's heat in certain areas. On the other side of the coin, the teams need to look at, as we build these games, we do a lot of internal user play and company play tests where we get a lot of data. And I think it's a combination of experience and intuition from the teams who have been making games for a long time. We've got a lot of great folks at the company who are dedicated to this space, and then combining that with taking that great intuition and experience and plugging it into these new platforms, and as I was talking about even with tablets, native design, and connecting those two. And the data that you sort of see really indicates whether players are engaging with these games or not. And then we evolve from there, and it's I wouldn't say it's always typical game design development, but it's pretty standard in the industry.
So from a product perspective then, to you, does it make sense still to keep mobile and social game teams separate, or are they rapidly going to be converging to just the games team and then platform as part of that discussion?
A little bit of both. I think having teams who are managing great intellectual property, Words with Friends, Farmville, all those things that we were talking about earlier, look at it across multiple platforms. But we also have teams that are, completely focused on, social and completely focused on mobile as well, because you need that sort of laser focus to understand how fast these industries are changing, as well as teams who understand their franchises really well. So the guys who manage poker are looking at it across multiple platforms, but you have other teams that are really trying to figure out, how a new technology shift in mobile or how a new technology shift on the web will impact the company, and then they feed that back to the rest of the teams making games.
So to kind of move it on then toward a natural conclusion, if you could go back in time 1 year with what you know now about the mobile space and how it's been changing and what you anticipate on tablet, would you do anything differently at all in the last 12 months?
Last 12 months, wow. Yeah, it's interesting. I think the one thing that the company is sort of adapting to right now is originally we're focusing a little too much on devices, on sort of the individual unique devices, and I think there's a realization that it really is much more about the operating systems and the services that sit on top of the operating systems. And I think that seems kind of obvious when you look at sort of iOS and Android. It's really easy to quickly sort of operationalize each of the individual devices, and really focusing on the platforms and the operating systems as a point of differentiation is super important. And that feeds into tools and technology and methodology and how you do a lot of the building of these games. And it seems like a subtle shift, but for us it was actually pretty pronounced.
What is your top mobile game of all time, personal favorite?
Oh man, I play so many games. It's really true. It's funny. We were backstage. We were talking about.
He's
all
not
the
kidding.
games.
I saw the folders.
Yeah, we're going through backstage all the games that we cycle through. I have a kind of this odd discipline where I look at all the top charts, all the top music charts, all the top movie charts, and I kind of grind through them just so I can see kind of whatever's current.
How many times have you listened to a Carly Rae Jepsen song doing that?
A lot, sadly, a lot. Yeah, well, it's funny, and this is not a sell, and it's interesting. And this is why I believe so deeply in social and at Zynga. And I've been making mobile games for a long time, and the reason I'm so excited about being here is the thing that always keeps bringing me back to Words with Friends.
So that's your top game.
It's my top game, and it's, you'll laugh, but it's not so much because I'm like, oh my god, I want to play Words with Friends. It's because my mom and my dad keep pushing me to play it, and so while I want to sort of check out all these new cool games that are coming out, if I don't get back to my mom and
Travis, you
dad,
haven't played your move yet.
That's right, and the holidays are coming up, so I can't not get back to them. I'm going to be sitting at dinner with them, and mom's going to be like, why didn't you play with me anymore? It's crazy, but it's really true, and that really resonated with me, some time back, and I realized, wow, this is a really important way that people are going to communicate. Sort of funny side story, video games always started out as kind of social things, and they went into this weird sort of dark age of technical achievement in kind of the 90s and early 2000, where they're all single players, all about graphics and animation systems and all that kind of stuff. And now with all these great tools and technology that are being brought to bear, easier communication, social networks, they're reconnecting people to go back to the root of games, which is just to play with other people. The board games of the past was all about sitting in your family room playing with other people. Nobody played a board game by themselves, right? And so I think what's interesting about today is the tools and technologies are enabling games to go back to their root, which I think is really powerful. That's also why you see the games today that are social are so much larger than everything else. I mean, Words with Friends and Draw Something as just quick examples are obviously very large, broad games, and that's completely driven by the fact that you can play with other people.
Off the top of your head, can you think of a tablet-only game that would be your top?
A tablet-only game that could be my top. I played Pocket Legends for a while, which I really liked, which was cool. It was a MMO that was built by Gary Gaddis and the guys out in Texas. I really liked that game, and it was pretty cool as a great tablet game. I haven't been playing too many tablet-only games recently.
And yet you're a huge believer in the future of tablet?
Huge believer in the future of tablet. As a desktop replacement. It's funny, I pretty much use my tablet as my travel laptop these days and do everything on it, whether it's Keynote or Pages and all my presentations and email. I do everything off my tablet now.
Okay. But you can't think, aside from the one game you mentioned, that's...
Probably it, yeah.
Can't believe you didn't say Sorcery. I thought I had you pegged.
Oh, no.
All right, so then, in your mind, what is a Facebook game that will not be able to make the jump to mobile tablet that we're going to have to say goodbye to?
God, I wouldn't say there's anything that could. Anything that's successful in Facebook with that broad of an audience has a mobile incarnation. I just think that anything that gets to that scale with that many people, any of the successful games on Facebook, they're such large audiences. I don't think there's any way that those games don't all make it over to mobile in some form or other.
What would be your advice then to a small indie developer just starting out in the space right now? If they're looking at Facebook, if they're looking at mobile, either way, what would you tell them?
Really think about who your audience is, and then craft the best experience you can and make your work super meaningful.
Are there any specific indies you've got your eye on?
No. God, the industry changes so fast. It's such a great time right now, and there's so many new people moving into the space. I think that's what's so fun about it. I've been making games for a long time and have been in Silicon Valley a large majority of my life, and I haven't seen so many new development teams and so much new activity in the mobile game space or in just the industry in general in my entire career. And so I'm just marveling and sort of smiling at all the cool people entering the space and excited at all the stuff that's going to start popping up.
Is there one question for yourself that you would have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
Well, that's a tough one.
Wow, I finally asked you something difficult.
One question that I would ask myself that you didn't ask me.
Come on, this is where your PR person is going to be like.
Yeah, I'm sitting right behind her in the audience. She's wincing right now. One question that I would ask myself. God, I don't know. Would I travel as much as I do? No. That's a very self-serving question. No, I have nothing comes to mind.
Awesome. All right.
Awesome,
well,
yeah. Really, no answer. Awesome, Travis.
All right. I want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank you guys for your kind attention. The next panel will be out shortly.
Awesome. Thanks.